I think a lot of times people are very intimidated to approach songwriting because we hear these stories of I was walking down the road or I was depressed and then God just spoke the
Yes.
song front to end. And
Yeah.
has that happened to me? Absolutely. I
Sure.
have songs that has happened to me for, and those are very dear and precious to me. However, we see singers, right, who are like 14 years old, and we're like, how is that? Like, how are they so good? It's like, well, that 14-year-old, they wake up and practice the piano every single day, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why they're an incredible musician, is they play for 2 hours a day. Singers, we're like, how is that 15-year-old just sing? They're doing all these runs. It's like, because they're in their room singing for 2-3 hours a
Yeah.
day
That's very
practicing.
true.
But songwriting is the only ministry that we kind of isolate and say, well, God just has to breathe it into you, or you just have to be born with that gift. And I don't believe that. I believe it's a talent that can be developed. And that way, whenever you're practicing and you're sharpening your skill set and you're sharpening your pencil, when God does inspire you, you are equipped and prepared to handle that inspiration with
Yeah.
the excellence that He's worthy of.
Hey guys, welcome back to the UPCI Music Podcast. I'm here today with the Savannah Pedigo. We're so honored that you would join us today. This is like the launch here at General Conference in Long Beach, is the launch of our podcast. So we're pretty stoked about it.
I'm super
So
excited.
yeah, so you are the fourth guest today, but we're so excited to have you on.
Number 4 is the new number 1.
Yes,
That's what I
exactly.
decided.
That's funny. So we'll just start with some conversation. How's conference going for you? You having a good time?
Conference has been incredible. It's
Yeah.
been busy.
Yes.
It's been super busy, but it's just been so refreshing getting to spend time with people that I don't get to see all the time,
Sure.
and to be able to serve with such incredibly talented people. Like, they're talented, but just being able to be with people all week and serve, and not only them be talented, but just remain having good attitudes and encouraging
Yes.
each other. It's been really refreshing.
Yeah, it is. That is a refreshing thing for sure. It really has been good. I've seen a ton of friends, and I have some friends that live here in the California area that I don't ever get to see.
Yeah,
So like they're running up to me and like, hey, I haven't seen you in 5 years. It's really nice.
that's really cool.
But again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We're just gonna kind of dive into it today, and obviously you're known quite a bit for songwriting and some of the songs you've written and co-written and things like that. So I was really interested in talking to you about this topic because it really interests me because I can't write songs.
Yes,
I've tried.
you can.
I've tried.
You can do it.
I need guidance is what I need. So
That's all
maybe
you need. You need
this is gonna be
tools.
it for me.
Yes.
Okay. So why don't we start talking about a little bit of the beginning of this journey for you? What did that look like? How did you stay encouraged? And maybe just some things along those lines.
So I wrote my first song when I was 8 years old. I'm a pastor's kid from Katy, and my parents were in meetings all day, which means I had to find something to do. So I walked around the church and went and locked myself in the women's restroom at 8 years old and wrote this song. It was not great. But I always remember it. It was, Jesus, I will praise you for the rest of my life. I will give you my praise, no matter what the sacrifice. I will worship you day and night. Jesus, you're my Savior, my Lord and my light. It wasn't anything mind-boggling,
Yeah.
but I remember it being so special to me because that was the first time I feel like God gave me a song, and along with that, kind of gave me this passion and a burden to explore that. The first song that I wrote that got recorded, I was 12 years old, called Ocean Deep, recorded by our church, and then it got picked up by Assemblies of God, right? Their general conference or
That's
their
awesome.
group, they ended up recording it. And since then, God's just kind of, opened up the right doors. I just write every single day and get this pile of songs, and then God kind of opened the doors and led me to the right people and the right influences.
Yes. That's so awesome. That's really cool. That was going to be kind of one of my questions. Like, do you remember the first song you wrote? But I'm sure, it's probably really special to you.
It is really special.
So why don't we talk a little bit also about your process? Like, what does that look like? Is it super technical, or are you very fluid with it? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I think a lot of times people are very intimidated to approach songwriting because we hear these stories of I was walking down the road or I was depressed and then God just spoke the song front to end.
Yeah.
And has that happened to me? Absolutely. I
Sure.
have songs that has happened to me for, and those are very dear and precious to me. However, we see singers, right, who are like 14 years old, and we're like, how is that? Like, how are they so good? It's like, well, that 14-year-old, they wake up and practice the piano every single day, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why they're an incredible musician, is they play for 2 hours a day. Singers, we're like, how is that 15-year-old just sing? They're doing all these runs. It's like, because they're in their room singing for 2-3 hours a day practicing.
That's very true.
But songwriting is the only ministry that we kind of isolate and say, well, God just has to breathe it into you, or you just have to be born with that gift. And I don't believe that. I believe it's a talent that can be developed. And that way, whenever you're practicing and you're sharpening your skill set and you're sharpening your pencil, when God does inspire you, you are equipped and prepared to handle that inspiration with
Yeah.
the excellence that He's worthy of. So it's a little bit of both. I write a lot of tags like in the middle of church, or
Okay.
like whenever I'm going on the road, I feel like God will kind of, inspire me and kind of give me songs like that, or in times that I'm hurt or going through something and God will give me a song for me or to help someone else get through it. But a lot of times, songs that a lot of people know of mine
Yeah.
came from homework assignments that I give myself every
Really?
week. I give myself homework every single day. I
Okay.
write a song every single day.
That's
Are they all
incredible.
great? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I always say that every 10th idea is a good one, but
Yeah.
you have to get all 9 out to get to number 10. Every
Sure.
10th song is a hit. Every 10th idea is a good one.
Yeah.
But if you're waiting till, well, God hasn't given me, God hasn't spoken to me the words, God hasn't done that, it's like, well, you're not preparing yourself and not equipping yourself to
Yeah.
handle that inspiration with excellence. So my process looks a little bit different. Whenever I'm writing intentionally, I have two different ways of homework
Okay.
that I tell people to do. One is uh, look at your song set for church that week.
Okay.
My candy stick, I guess, like my most comfortable way to write is that 4-chord, hunger, holy ground, he's in the
Yeah.
room, anything that's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna cry. That's where I'm really comfortable at. Songs like Graves into Gardens or I Got a Song, things like that are not my natural go-to. So what I'll do is I'll look up on YouTube one of the songs and I'll look up the instrumental for it and
Okay.
force myself to write a different song, even if it's just a bridge, even if it's just 2 lines, but force myself to write something over that chord progression and that
That's
time
really cool.
signature, and
Okay.
it helps stretch you out a little
Yeah.
bit. And then the second one is the way that I like write when I'm writing intentionally for an artist. I can use Mark Carter for an example. We were having a writing session for one of his upcoming albums. I don't think that this one got recorded, but it'll be an example.
Yeah.
I do my Google Docs or notebook, however you want to do it,
Mhm.
and I split it up into 3 different sections. The first one is song audience.
Okay.
Your song audience is who you're singing to. It's either songs are either vertical or they're horizontal. It's either to God, you're worthy of it all, worthy is your name. They're songs to God. Songs that are horizontal are songs that are to the congregation. Dance like the weight has been
Yeah.
lifted. Grace is waiting for you. That's to the congregation. So you decide who your audience is. If the audience is to God, you just write vertical, it's to God. If the song audience is to someone else, decide who your audience is. Is it just your church as a whole, like your church? Is it someone that's in need of healing and they haven't received their healing? For Mark's, we decided, okay, this song is for someone who heard anything can happen and they had faith and believed, but they still hadn't received their miracle.
Okay. Yeah.
So they had that faith, but then God didn't come through for them. That's who we're speaking to. Then song message is the next one. With song message, a lot of times I do this with people who aren't even songwriters, but I'll go to someone and say, like, okay, my dad. I'll say, all right, Dad, what would you, as a pastor, as an apostolic, Holy Ghost filled believer, what would you say to this person? Because when we try to write songs, sometimes we get so caught up trying to write the next "So Will I"
Yeah.
or "Wait in the Lord," all these beautiful concepts that we lose. Those are beautiful songs, but sometimes we lose the genuine nature of what we're trying to say because we're trying to come up with this cool concept.
Sure.
So if I were to tell you, give me a lyric about peace, you're gonna go into a panic and try to come up with the most deep, profound,
Right. Yeah.
theological
100%.
lyric
Yes.
ever. Something that's gonna be like, wow, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be like, in the late night, in the midnight hour, like a river. His peace is like a river.
Yeah.
If I were coming to you saying I'm struggling, you wouldn't say, for his peace is like a river that flows. And you wouldn't say
Yeah.
that to me. So I would, I'll go to someone and say, what would you say to this person that, had faith and still hasn't received their blessing? And they'll say, well, you just got to have faith. Even though God didn't come through for you, his plans are so much better than our plans. His ways are so much higher than our ways. And even though you can't see it or understand it, he's working it out. You just got to keep praying and keep believing. And while they're talking, I'm writing down keywords,
Okay.
believing, keep praying, never failed,
I love
won't start
that.
now. You're not the exception.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's exactly what I'm trying to say to this person.
Mhm.
That's exactly what I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Not something beautiful or poetic, but I'm trying to tell you, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so that helps you get that whole bunch of words, lyric bank. And then from there, that's where I pull my lyrics from.
Okay.
And then I start the writing process when I'm
I
writing
love that.
intentionally.
Yeah. That's really good. And I think the point you're making is that write a song from the perspective of like you're just being real with someone. You're just
Yes.
simply just trying to talk to them, and translate something to them that they can feel
One
and
of the
help them
most
through a situation.
successful worship songs ever is I love you forever. I
Yeah.
love you
It's very
forever.
true.
I love you forever, Lord.
Yeah.
We'll worship. You're worthy of it all. You're
Yeah.
worthy of it all.
So
For from you
simple.
are all
Yes.
things, to you are all things. You deserve
Yeah.
the glory. You deserve the glory. You deserve the glory.
Mhm.
It's so simple, but that's exactly from your heart to his
Yeah.
ears. And I think a lot of times we try to make it too complicated because
I agree.
we want to write the new if the mountains roar your greatness, so will
Yeah.
I. That's beautiful, and
Sure.
that was God inspired. But if you get so caught up trying to write something so beautiful and so poetic, you lose the genuine nature behind
Yeah.
what you're doing. And that's where a lot of our power is as apostolic songwriters
Mhm.
and apostolic musicians, is that we understand what works in our services, and we understand the flow, we understand what words and everything resonate with us. So when you get so caught up trying to write something big and mystical and magical, then you kind of lose touch with what our actual purpose is to
Yeah.
be doing, which is to connect with people and
Yes.
give people words to sing to God that they a lot of times don't have
Yeah.
themselves.
And I find like probably those songs do so well because of how simple they are
Mhm.
and how easily people can relate to them.
Yes.
They're not super wordy. Not saying that wordy songs are bad,
No.
but simple ones they just tend to resonate with people very easily.
Yes.
Now I want to touch on something that you said kind of at the beginning of that whole
Mhm.
spiel. Um, have you and that I'll just go into this small story about it. So I was
Okay.
at Ohio camp meeting one year, and I can't remember who was preaching. But Pastor Mark Condon was doing the music that year, and he turned to Pastor Mark and said, "Hey, I want you to write a song while I'm preaching, and I want you guys to sing it for altar
Yeah.
call." And I was like, "How in the world are they going to do that right on the spot and it, be half decent, So the whole time while whoever was preaching was up there, they did that and ended up singing for altar call. It was very powerful, great. Have you ever been in a situation like that? Have you ever? You mentioned writing a tag, writing
Yeah.
something in church. Can you talk about any situations like that?
Yeah. So a lot of times, a lot of my songs do come from tags and come from spontaneous moments of worship. Uh, He's in the room. Every life can be restored when
Mm-hmm.
is the same chord progression as Holy Ground because it was a tag for Holy Ground.
Oh,
A
okay.
song I have called Not Worried was a
Mm-hmm.
tag for Not Afraid.
I love that song, by the way.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I love it.
The song Deeper was a tag for We Just Want You over the same
Okay.
chord progressions. That Deeper was actually written in the middle of a practice when God just kind of came in and moved, and we were singing We Just Want You, practicing it, and they put on the schedule, Savannah comes up and prays and writes a song. That was on the
No
service
way.
schedule. I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever
Yeah.
seen in my life. But in practice, God just moved, and it came
Yeah.
out. Our church, we kind of changed the way that we do original music in
Mm-hmm.
2020. We were doing original music for a long time. We were putting out several albums, and then we hadn't put anything out for a while. And then in 2020, everything went crazy, right?
Yeah.
And in the middle of service, or not in the middle of service, during altar call, the band, they're singing "See a Victory," and then they're like, "All right, everybody worship," and just the band plays. And anyone who's a singer or a musician or songwriter is any musically inclined at all, at some point in your life, when the band's just playing, you start singing a little
Yes.
something and have some sort of idea. So I'm
Definitely.
in altar call and started singing, "I will praise you in the waiting, praise you in the waiting. Victory is coming, praise you in the waiting," and it just kind of came out like that. Me and my friend Lauren were over our youth music at the time, and during COVID, our youth and hyphen were running the Sunday night services, because there was no one there and it was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But See a Victory is on the schedule, and I told our team, okay, guys, don't panic, don't freak out, but I'm gonna teach you all a new song. Wasn't on Planning Center, don't freak out. But it's this band, don't freak out. It's the same chords. It's the same exact chord progression you're already playing, and then taught it to our singers really quickly. It's not the most mind-boggling song in the world, but our church responded more to that than they did See a Victory
That's awesome.
because it was born out of a moment of worship of our collective body.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it built the confidence of our team members so much to realize, oh, we just did an original song for the first time. Again, I think when people think about introducing original music to their church, they'll get discouraged because they'll be like, guys, I have this idea. For every mountain
Yeah.
you brought me over. And it's something really complicated. But starting off small can really encourage and motivate your team members. But Praise You in the Waiting, Not Worried, all of those songs did come out as spontaneous tags. Even last night, we wrote one during altar call. And last
Okay.
year, me and David Jennings cannot get together during altar call.
And
We
not
are
write a song.
the worst. But a lot of my songs do come out of spontaneous moments of worship or uh, in the middle while the band's playing an instrument. And that's something I think I do encourage a lot of people to do
Yeah.
when they don't know how to start writing songs.
Hmm.
They don't know where to start. They have no fresh ideas. They don't know what to do. Like, I don't even know what to begin with.
Yeah.
I encourage you to find a song that goes over well at your church. Any song that goes over well at your church, and look up that instrumental on YouTube. Because again, it'll help condition you. Are you stealing their chord progression? No. Are you stealing their melody? Well, don't say, I'm going to write a song. You're worthy of it all. And then be like, I love you, Lord of all. Like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Sure.
Don't do
Yeah,
that.
right.
But certain time signatures, certain chord progressions, certain
Mhm.
feels work at churches that don't work at our church. And we do songs that really don't work at other people's church. And if you get so caught up being like, I'm going to write this song from scratch, and you never stop to consider, would our church even do this song?
Yeah.
Would our church ever even do this? Then you're kind of doing a disservice to yourself. So finding songs that work well for your church and forcing yourself to write over those chord progressions, again, it's homework, and it helps prepare you for those moments in the middle of church when the pastor says, write a song right now,
Yeah.
or you're singing a song and you want to go to something about Thanksgiving, but nothing in this chord time signature, nothing in this chord progression, nothing in this key is about Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
So you prepared yourself to handle that moment and be able to write something on the spot. Not,
Yeah.
Again, not because you're crazy talented or someone has a gift that you don't have, but you're preparing yourself to handle those moments with excellence.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's just like any other skill, kind of like you mentioned,
Mhm.
like practicing it, and like how else are you going to get good at something unless you're actually
Right.
spending the time, behind the scenes, like honing your
Right.
skill and things like that. So I think I've heard multiple people say it, but specifically Draylen Young mentioned to me one time that it's, as a songwriter, it's important for him to write songs that resonate or help his church go through something that they're going
Yes.
through. Do you feel like that's something very important to focus on?
Absolutely. We're preparing for a live recording right now that our church is doing
Okay.
at our Zion conference. And when picking the songs, there are some songs that came up that we do at our church, and we honestly just felt like, you know what? That was for our church. We don't even
Yeah,
need to record it. That's not even what
that's
it was
cool.
for.
Yeah.
But that song was for our church. I wrote a song as a tag for Mighty Fortress, that your name's a mighty fortress,
Yeah.
shining bright in the darkness, my rock of firm foundation, Jesus, Jesus. And over the same chord progression, it was during a time where there's a lot of heaviness in our church, a lot of weariness, people really going through stuff. Not that anyone was really struggling, but people were just tired.
Yeah.
And you felt that in service, that people were coming in and they were showing up and they were faithful, but it was an effort to get there,
Sure.
you know? And so I feel like in the moment, that's what we wanted, that's what we were speaking about, and that's what we wanted to minister to that need, but didn't have a song in that moment to
Yeah.
go there. So in practice, came up with when I'm tired and I'm weary and the enemy surrounds me, I will run to the name of the Lord. I will run to the name of the Lord. And it was something about in that service, something just broke.
Yeah.
And we're not recording it. I never really even pitch it to artists
Mhm.
whenever we're going to like helping prepare for like a recording
Yeah.
or things, because it was for that moment in service. And again, there are songs that we've done that are not mind-boggling. They're little tags that aren't great, but they're for the season of church, the season of life that your church is in. Whenever I go out and I teach a lot of songwriting clinics for churches, no matter your size, how to incorporate original music into your church.
Yeah.
I've done clinics for churches that have 6 members and 1 piano player and no click.
Mhm.
But we'll knock out 11 songs, right?
Yeah.
In 2 days. And they'll
That's so
send me their
cool.
live stream and they'll sing I Speak Jesus,
Mhm.
right? They'll sing I Speak Jesus and their church responds, but then they'll sing this 2-line tag that ministers directly to where their church is at. That it's not winning a Dove Award, it's not winning a Grammy,
Mhm.
we would probably not record it. They probably would not record it.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, their church responds. I watched the live stream. Their church responds more to that song in that moment than they do anything that I could write,
Wow.
anything Charity Gill could write, anything David Jennings, Jalen Young, James Wilson, any of us could write, because it was born out of a moment of worship from their body directly to their body. Again, I think when God calls you to be a singer, you want to find a place to worship lead, and you want to use that gift at your church. When God calls you to be a musician, you're not just thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to play at NAYC and I'm going to play for David Jennings on his recording. That's not where your mind goes. You find a place to serve. Songwriting is the only gift that we isolate and say,
That's
well,
so
if you want
true.
to be a recording artist and you want to write for albums, well, then if you want to be a songwriter, you have to have the right connections, you have to collaborate, you have to copyright your songs, you have to do all this stuff. When God sometimes is kind of give you a song to minister to the people that you are ministering to and worshiping with on a week-to-week basis, and he's trying to give you words and melody that will help your service break out, and lyrics that we don't have that to be able to minister to y'all. So I think it is 100% important to, even if it's one person, two people, to get together and try to write songs that minister to your body, because there's some words that I just don't have because I'm not there on a week-to-week basis. There are words that David doesn't have because we're not there on a week-to-week basis, and we don't know what your church is going through like you know what your church is going through, and we can't minister to your church like you can minister to your church.
Yeah, no, that's so good. I totally agree with literally everything you said. I think it's so important, and you're right. Like, you have a connection to your church that I could never. I could come in, say I was the songwriter. I could come in and help you write some songs. You know, they could be super cool, but you're gonna know. You're gonna have a really strong sense of what that
If
church
I was
body
to write a
needs or feel.
song for you and you are sitting there knowing like that just would not go over well at our church, there are, think about songs like from Elevation, from whoever you're doing songs from, and there's sometimes you listen to a song and you're like, oh, that's cool, but it wouldn't go over well at our church. Right? You have to look at your songs in that same light. That like, okay, but would this go over well at our church? If not, keep writing and stretch yourself and write in different genres, different time signatures, different styles. But if you're writing for your church, that's another thing. People get really offended when they're like, well, they didn't do my song. It's like, if your song was recorded by CeCe Winans, they still probably wouldn't do your song, because it's about what works in a service flow rather than them doing your material. It's about enhancing a moment and getting people
That's
to the
really
feet
good.
of Jesus.
Yeah, and there's so many different types of like cultures within churches too.
Absolutely.
You know, you might have a church that does totally into choirs, choir music, a CCM church. You know, not that one is worse or better than the other, but again, you're gonna know what that culture is. If you come and try to do a shout song at my church where we do mostly CCM, it's just, it could be a great song, but people aren't going to connect as deeply with it, you know? So just knowing the culture and being able to, that's really good. And trying to cultivate more people, I think, to write songs, you know, like, and encourage them to actually do it. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So you kind of talked about your songwriting process alone. Can you maybe expound a little more on co-writing? Do you feel like it's very important for people to do that early on in their songwriting process, or just give some tips on that, or
I
whatever?
do think it's very important to collaborate, because we can all be little babies, me included. When I first started songwriting, I had the mentality, and anyone who's ever written a song has said the phrase at some point, but these songs it's my baby. Like, this song is my baby. My very good friend Kirk and he told me something jokingly one time, but it just like completely shifted my experience when we were talking about some song that we needed to redo, but I think the person, they really wanted it to stay the same, and he said, God did not give you this song in B flat. And he was joking around, but to me I was like, God did not give that song in B flat. And a lot of times when you're writing on your own, you're like, no, God gave me this song, and we're going to go to parts here, and we're going to go to unison here, and we're going to do this here, and then the bridge builds, and you have it all mapped out. Partnering with people that know more than you is essential to becoming a better songwriter. Whenever I even write songs, I used to write to a piano a lot. I still write occasionally to a piano, but when I'm trying to write for something, I stepped away from the keyboard entirely. I don't play to the piano. I don't write to the piano, because I found myself getting locked in a melodic prison that was bound to my skill set, right? If we all want to do Set a Fire, I got y'all all day long. But there's some songs that you'll hear a melody in your head, and then whenever you go to try to play it, you start to match your melody to your chords, right? So I would write just to a metronome and then send it off. And when I first started writing, and then I would send a song to someone, and they would send it back and be like, "Oh, that's really cool. I think you should change the bridge and the chorus." I'm crying. Like, I will just cry. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sobbing because you
Yeah.
hate me and you think I'm bad at
Sure.
songwriting,
Yeah.
and I just poured my heart out to you, and you
Yeah.
told me that you don't like me and I'm ugly. Like, that's what you just said to me. But whenever you realize the power of partnering with people that know more than you,
Yeah.
we're so limited in our own ideas, and God
Mhm.
can inspire, and God will. I deeper. I'm the sole writer on. Not worried. I'm the sole writer on. Like, a lot of my songs, I'm a sole writer. But when I'm writing for other people, I co-write all the time. Even if we don't use it,
Mhm.
it's helps me think in a different way, and it helps
Sure.
you move around. And I think the earlier that you can start co-writing to desensitize to that idea
Yeah.
of
I get that. Yeah.
you hurt my feelings, the earlier you can do that, even if those songs are not going anywhere,
Mhm.
even if it's with people that, they don't want to record, you're just getting in those rooms and co-writing
Yeah.
and telling people, like, tear it apart. I'll send my songs to people and say, tear it apart.
Mhm.
Even if I don't take all their ideas, I want to know
Yeah.
all of
Sure.
their
Yeah.
ideas. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad songwriter. It doesn't mean that it's a bad song,
Mhm.
but I want to get every possible perspective that I can in
Yeah.
order to make the song the best that it can be. Again, I think, we'll be like, well, God gave me this song. It's like, God gave you a message for someone that needs the message,
Yeah.
right? God gave you a message. And if you're so caught up saying, like, I want to be the one that forms it and makes it beautiful, then and it's me and mine, then you're not going to get that message to the most people that you can.
Mhm.
But if you're saying, God gave me this message and it's so precious to me, I want to make sure that I am handling it with the highest excellence
Sure.
that I
Yeah.
can. That way it brings God maximum glory,
Yeah.
right?
That's really good. Yeah.
Everything that it can do. So
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. So how do you feel like you keep with co-writing individually or writing individually as well? How do you feel like you keep things original and not
it's
keep
hard.
writing it? Yeah.
It can
I'm
be hard.
sure.
Um, so one thing I do is I try not to listen. It sounds like so dumb because I'm a songwriter and it's music stuff all the time.
Yeah.
But I try not to listen to music
Okay.
in my, like, day to day life.
Mhm.
I will listen to podcasts and books with my husband or other things, and I'll try to leave that space open because whenever I'm listening to music, we all have done it. There's been one time I went to show my mom a song, and I was like, "Mom, like, this is it," and I showed it to her, and she was like, "I love it too." And then, like, later that night, I was like, that is a Chris Tomlin song, like, word for
Oh
word.
yeah.
It was some blessing and honor or something, but
Mhm.
it was word for word, note for note, the exact same melody.
That's
And I was like,
hilarious.
well, we're gonna, which again, collaboration's important because sometimes
Yeah.
people tell you, that my sister is very good at that. I will sing
Okay.
her something and she's like, that's CC Winans. I'm like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
But try not to listen to other people when keeping stuff original. Um, it can be hard, but it's also a tricky balance. How original do I want to be, and how usable do I want to be?
Yeah.
If you're trying to be so original that your
Yeah.
songs become too complicated to
Mhm.
use in every church,
Sure.
then you're trying to do too much. There's only so many notes on a piano. There's only so many things you can
Yeah.
do. But when it comes to being original, writing for your church, and even if it's just changing a couple of notes, a couple of melodies, a couple of lyrics, it can be difficult. But again, writing not to an instrument helps more than anything else. Because when I'm writing to a piano, I'm like, holy forever, like
Yeah.
the
It
same
just comes
chords,
out.
the same
Yeah.
little notes. But when I'm writing, I will. My husband probably goes insane because I leave a metronome on when I'm writing. Just
Okay.
that. It's just like click, 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 click. Like when I'm walking around the house
Mhm.
when I'm getting ready for church, it's just a metronome, just a time signature. That's it. And I am walking around the house going like, and you are da 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 down down down, and you are holy God forever. Like, just make, but I'm just letting my brain go
Yeah.
crazy
Anywhere.
without
Yeah.
trying to match the
A
chords. And I
melody
think
or
that
something.
really helps
Yeah.
you stay original and have fresh ideas.
Sure.
Because when you're, again, there's only so many chords, there's only so many things you can do. But when you just walk around with the metronome on,
Mhm.
walk around with a click, and it kind of lets your brain go a little bit free, and you can edit down from there, but
Yeah.
it helps you be a little bit freer. That's
Yeah, and
worked for me.
I think somebody else. I can't speak for them, but Frankie Taylor recently wrote a couple songs for us on our latest recording that we did for
Okay,
UPCI
awesome.
Music, and it was just voice memos. He didn't have any music. It was just him. He was like, "Hey, I just came up with this melody and some of these words," and we sent it over to Julian Tabarez, and
Hmm.
he added the music to it, and it was just like both of them, just their worlds just collided
Yes.
perfectly. And I feel like I'm assuming a little bit, but Frankie, he didn't have any music for us. He was like, I don't know what key this is in. He was
Yeah.
like, I'm just singing it. It just came to me. And it was the song Miracles that we just released
Yeah.
a couple months back. And it just turned out to be an absolutely amazing song.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really good
That
advice.
happens often, but most of the voice memos I send off don't have music.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really cool. And that, like, you explaining it a little more kind of helps me see that, because I would have never. So, Brother Tim Pedigo, I was in his songwriting class at
My
IBC.
father-in-law.
Yeah. So I
Love
know
him.
I wrote some trash songs, but I
It's okay.
you talking about that makes a lot of sense, because I boxed myself into a progression.
Mm.
And I found myself, I was like, these sound so cookie cutter. I remember I wrote like a Christmas song because that was my assignment that week, and it was like,
It's probably
it
yeah.
I think I have it on my
I
memos
need to hear it
somewhere.
after this.
I'll try to find it, but yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's going to be really like crucial for songwriters to hear. I'm really hoping this, will encourage
Well, we
somebody.
think, I'm a songwriter. That means I'm the musician and I'm the
Yeah,
arranger and I'm the no. A lot of times we're the lyricist and we come up with melody.
yeah,
I am when you take ego out of it, right? When you're like, you know what, I'm not the best musician.
hmm,
I'm not the best arranger. I'm
yeah,
not the best at arranging the vocals and all the other stuff. But I know people who God's really gifted
hmm,
in that area and
yes,
they have a passion for it. And I partner with them. Again, it's about the message and it's
right,
about getting it to the most people possible. So I do lyric and melody a lot of times. There's a few songs of mine that like I would come up with little like musical lines for,
yeah,
but most of it, I know he is an incredible producer. Jessica DiGiovanni is an incredible vocal arranger.
yeah,
Brittany Scott is amazing at choruses and lyrics and stuff. Ryan Johns is incredible at verses. Oh my word,
yeah,
amazing at verses. And when I'm struggling in one of those areas and
mhm,
I want it to be excellent, I will ask one of those people for help and lean on
yeah,
them to be strong where I'm weak. That way
yeah.
God can again get maximum
Yeah.
glory.
And I think, just touching back on the collaboration aspect, in every area in my life, I feel like I am better for collaborating. I feel
Absolutely.
like I'm better, especially even the stuff we do with UPCI Music. So I'm the promotions director, and I could not do this alone. We
Absolutely.
work with the team. I work with the team, and I facilitate a lot of the ideas, but they bring it to life and
Absolutely.
do stuff around this booth and this whole podcast setup, this backdrop we have here. I could not have done that on my own,
Yeah.
So I think just in even songwriting, I think collaboration and being open to things like that, getting your ego and pride out of the way, I think it make everyone's life better.
Again, it's one of the only ministries we isolate with singers. We're not like, yeah, I'm gonna sing a general conference, just me.
Right.
There's no praise team. It's just me. There's
Yeah.
no music. It's just me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm singing a
That's
cappella.
such a good
For
point. Yeah.
musicians, it's not. Yeah, I'm playing keys general conference, and that's it. Nobody
It's
else is
just,
playing
yeah.
an instrument. For songwriters, like, no, I did all of it, and we brag about it like it's some
Yeah.
accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
But what's really beautiful is saying like, no, I wrote these lyrics, and then where I could have come up with a really lackluster and predictable chord progression, I sent it off to someone who God really gifted,
Yes.
and they elevated it. I sent it to an arranger, and they elevated it.
Mhm.
The person who mixed it and mastered it, they elevated it.
Yeah.
And that's something to be proud of whenever you collaborate with people who are, again, passionate and
Yes.
strong in areas that you're weak in.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, last and kind of final thoughts here. What would you like to leave with an aspiring songwriter? How would you like to encourage them?
I would say, one, again, every 10th idea is a good one. And you'll get really discouraged whenever you write that one song and then you're like, man, this is it. They're going to do that at general conference. Like, our church is going to do that, and no one picks it up. And then you stop writing
Yeah.
because you're so discouraged and you think, well, I guess God just did not give me in that area. That's not true. Or if you have never written a song, you don't even know where to start, and you literally sit down to write a song and it's so bad that you're like, okay, never mind, that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Every 10th idea is a good one, and every 10th song is a hit. You are either going to be, my dad says it about, went back and got his doctorate.
Okay.
And he was like, I'm going to be 50 years old. Like, do I need to go back and get my doctorate at 50 years old?
Yeah.
And I forgot who it was. Someone told him, you're either going to be 50 with a doctorate or 50 without a doctorate.
Yeah. That's really
But
good.
you're going to be 50
True.
either way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's up to you what you want to do to get there. With songwriters, you're either going to be, if you're 20 years old, you're either going to be 25 and be an excellent songwriter, or 25 and starting at ground zero.
Yeah.
But it's going to take time for you to get there,
Yeah.
right? It's all about writing every day and sharpening that pencil and strengthening your skill set. That
Yeah.
way you are equipped to handle those ideas. But it's all about just starting now. Give yourself homework. If you wake up one day and you're not inspired, God didn't stop speaking to you and giving you songs, and you're not forgotten and all this
Yeah.
stuff. It's about learning to write when you're not inspired,
Mhm.
learning to write whenever you don't feel like writing.
Yeah.
And that way it's so excellent and beautiful when God does inspire. You've grown and strengthened yourself to be able to
You've
handle
equipped
that
yourself for
moment.
the
Yeah,
moments.
equip yourself
Yeah.
for that moment.
Yeah.
I can write a song right now on the drop of a hat, not because I'm talented
Mhm.
or because God just gave me a gift that He
That's
didn't
a
give
skill at
you.
this point that
It's
you
because it's
yeah.
a skill set. If it was light, I can whatever. Jesus, you're the light of the world. That Jesus in you now.
Yeah.
Again, not because God just said, Jesus, you're the light of the world,
Yeah.
but because Jesus gave me a gift and a burden and a passion to equip
Yes.
myself, right?
Mhm.
And that way, when He does inspire, you're prepared to handle that. So encourage yourself to write every single day if you can. Give yourself homework, collaborate with people, and be teachable.
Yeah.
Let someone strip your song
Yes.
apart. Let someone tell you where you need to grow. And remember, it's all about the message.
Yeah.
And you got it.
Yes, you got it. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this another episode here of UPCI Music Podcast. We're so grateful to have Savannah Pedigo on the podcast. Hope you guys really enjoyed this, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye, guys.